All right, welcome back. So we are going to read chapter 9 and 10 today. Chapter 9, remember, is the oldest fan of all. And remember, they just heard the Dodgers win, the Brooklyn Dodgers win, 5-3. They were playing the Boston Braves. And Jackie Robinson, it was his very first major league game. And he was the first African-American to get to play in a real major league game. So very cool. All right, so here we go, chapter 9. After he heard the final score, Jack smiled. Okay, now we know why this is a big day for baseball. Yep, said Annie, and now it's time to give fly ball away. She pointed at the twins. Of course, he said. He turned to Otis and Olive. We have a special gift for you. He took the ball from his bag and held it out to the twins. No thanks, said Olive. You keep it. You deserve it more. We have lots of baseballs, said Otis. You do? Said Annie. Sure, we grab them when they fly over the wall of the ballpark, said Otis. They're all in here, said Olive. Come look, we'll show you. Jack and Annie followed the twins into a shadowy room off the hallway. The room smelled of roses and lavender. Otis switched on a lamp. A really old woman sat in a rocking chair. She seemed to be sleeping. See? There, whispered Olive. She pointed at a basket filled with baseballs. We keep them in here in Granny Beck's room. We know they'll be safe with her, said Otis. Oh, said Jack. He and Annie glanced at the sleeping woman. She's our great-great-granny, whispered Olive. She's 101 years old, whispered Otis. She was born a slave. Do I hear some little children talking about me? The ancient-looking woman asked. She opened her eyes and smiled. Yes, Granny Beck, said Otis. Sorry we woke you up. I was just resting my eyes, sweetheart, she said. Who's that with you? Our friends Jack and Annie, said Olive. They were bat boys at the Dodgers game today. Come closer, children, said the great-great-grandmother. Jack and Annie moved closer to her rocker. Did you see Jackie Robinson today? She asked in a whispery voice. Yes, ma'am, said Annie. Did the crowd cheer for him? She said. Yes, ma'am, said Jack. All of them? She asked. Jack felt he couldn't lie to her. No, ma'am, a few people didn't, he said. They yelled mean things. I'm sorry to hear that, she said. What did Jackie do? He ignored them, said Jack. He held his head high, said Annie, and he walked back to the dugout without saying a word. Of course he did. He kept his mind on the game, the old woman said. He kept his dignity. He rose above what's mean and low. That's a good way to describe it, thought Jack. He walked toward the good, she whispered. Always keep your eyes on the good, children, and always keep your self-respect. Yes, ma'am, said Jack. Jack, whispered Annie, look. Annie pointed at the baseball in Jack's hand. Writing was magically appearing on the white ball. The letters spelled J-A-C-K-I-E-R-O-B-I-N-S-O-N. What does that spell? Do you know? J-A-C-K-I-E-R-O-B-I-N-S-O-N. What did that spell? Look. Jackie Robinson! The twins stared at the ball in amazement. You have a ball with Jackie Robinson's autograph? Otis said. The ball with the names, Jack said to Annie. Annie grinned and nodded. She took the ball from Jack and held it out to Granny Beck. This belongs to you, Annie said. She placed the ball into the old woman's bent hands. Thank you, Granny Beck whispered. She looked at the autograph. I must be his oldest fan. Jack remembered the last 3 lines of the message from Morgan. Give the ball with the name to the one who knows best the rules of the game. You know the rules of the game, Jack said softly. Yes, I do, she said. The old woman wrapped her wrinkled hands around the baseball. Then she closed her eyes again. Olive motioned to Jack and Annie. They followed her and Otis out to the hallway. Annie smiled at the twins. Your great-great-granny is, well, great. They all laughed. I'm afraid we have to leave now, said Jack. Thanks for coming over, said Olive. Wait, I have a question, said Annie. Why are we the first white people to ever visit your house? Olive shrugged. I guess you're the first ones who ever wanted to. That's so weird, said Annie. Not really, Annie, said Jack. There was a lot of racism in the 1940s. Was? Said Otis. You mean is, said Olive. Yeah, is, Jack said softly. But Jackie Robinson's starting to change things, said Otis. That's true, said Jack. Well, thank you for everything. You two really helped us today. You sure did, said Annie. And now you can tell us how to get back to the park. Oh, it says now, can you tell us how to get back to the park? Easy, said Otis. He led them out the front door. Go to the corner, turn left, and go about 6 blocks. Great, thanks, said Jack. Bye, said Annie. Bye, said Olive and Otis. And here's a picture of Jack and Annie, and they gave the ball to the great-great-granny. Can you imagine being 101 years old and getting to have that ball? That's exciting. Jack and Annie ran to the corner and turned left. In the brisk air, they walked quickly up a busy street until they came to the city park. They headed to the open area where they'd first met the twins. The big kids shooting marbles were gone. The girls playing jacks were gone. The man singing in Spanish was gone too. Jack and Annie kept walking until they came to the small grove of trees. They found the rope ladder and hurried up. Inside the treehouse, Annie grabbed their Pennsylvania book. She found the picture of Frog Creek Woods. Ready? She asked Jack. Knock it out of the park, said Jack. Annie laughed. She pointed at the picture and said, I wish we could go there. The wind started to blow. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still. Absolutely still. All right, chapter 10 is Home Run. Last chapter of this book. Leaves rustled in the woods. Shadows danced on the floor of the treehouse. No time at all had passed in Frog Creek. We're back, said Jack with a smile. He and Annie were wearing their own clothes again. I wish Otis and Olive lived in Frog Creek, said Annie. Me too, said Jack. They really knew how to get around, said Annie. They knew all the shortcuts. Yeah, Grandpa says in his time, kids did a lot by themselves, said Jack. It's different now. Unless you have a magic treehouse, said Annie. Jack laughed. Can you believe we just saw Jackie Robinson playing at Ebbets Field, he said. Let's look him up, said Annie. Jack reached into his backpack and pulled out History of Baseball. Funny, our whole trip we never thought to read about baseball, said Annie. That's because we were too busy living it, said Jack. He found the page about Jackie Robinson. He read aloud. Jackie Robinson was the first African American to play Major League Baseball in America. He played his first game with the Brooklyn Dodgers at Ebbets Field in Brooklyn, New York on April 15, 1947. A big day for baseball, said Annie. Yep, a really big day, said Jack. He kept reading. In 1947, Robinson was voted Rookie of the Year, and in 1955, he was a World Series champion. What's Rookie of the Year? Annie asked. The best new player, said Jack. He read on. Jackie Robinson was not just a great baseball player, he also showed heroic strength in the face of racism. I'm not concerned with your liking or disliking me, he once said. All I ask is that you respect me as a human being. His talent and courage helped inspire the civil rights movement. That's so cool, whispered Jack. He closed the book. He took a deep breath. Well, we'd better get going. We have a lot to do. We do? Said Annie. Yep. Jack pulled on his backpack. Then he followed Annie down the rope ladder. A gentle breeze blew as they started walking through the woods. Sunlight streamed between the trees. You said we have a lot to do, said Annie. Like what? Like go to the ballpark and try out for the baseball team, said Jack. Seriously? You changed your mind, said Annie. Sure, said Jack. Why not? I thought you were afraid of kids might laugh at you, said Annie. I can live with that, said Jack. You? Sure, said Annie. We just need to try our best, said Jack. And keep our self-respect, said Annie. Yeah, if we don't make the team, we can sign up to be a bat boy or a bat girl, said Jack. Or a manager, said Annie. Or use Mom's phone to take photos of the game, said Jack. Hey, what about making videos, said Annie. That'd be fun, said Jack. So fun, said Annie. You know, Morgan didn't send us to Brooklyn to become great baseball players, said Jack. I know, said Annie. She sent us there to learn how to be brave and keep going. Yep, the rules of the game, said Jack. They stepped out of the woods onto their sunlit street. Better hurry, said Jack. Home run, said Annie. She and Jack took off through the bright sunlight, running for home. Awesome. And remember, there's the fact tracker about Jackie Robinson. That's a real picture of what he really looked like. A real photograph. I love the neat things that we learn when we read these books. It's really, really cool to think about being inspired by things that happened in history. And so that's why it's important for us to learn about history. When I was your age, I didn't really like history. I didn't really understand it. It kind of was boring. I didn't have the best teachers that taught me in a way that made it meaningful or real to me. And so that's the other reason I really, really like these books. When my children were little, they used to read Magic Tree House books, and they just got so intrigued and enthralled in history, and they still are to this day. Like, they can remember dates and things about things that happened that I don't even remember. So, but part of their beginning to love for history was reading these books. And so that's why I love Magic Tree House books. It really helps you learn about different times in history. And again, Mary Pope Osborne, she travels to those places. She reads, she goes to libraries. Excuse me, she probably goes to museums. She goes all over the place, and she learns about the real story. Okay, so the cool thing about this book, I'm not going to read it, but I'll let you read it if and when you decide to get this book, is in the back it gives you different lingo and different things about the game. So if you are young and you have not been able to play the game, you can read what tag out is, what a force out is, what hits means. Kind of cool. And then there's even a really cool picture at the very back of the book. And it says positions on the field. And so it tells you what the different positions are and what they do. It's kind of a neat little drawing and cartoon of what the different positions are. So I think that's really cool. And then it seems like there was one. Nope, that's it. That's all. All right. Yay, we finished another chapter book. I hope you enjoy this book, whether you're a boy or a girl, and enjoy the history of learning about how brave Jackie Robinson had to be. Just the fact that he was able to start playing, and he held his head high, even though people were still jeering and heckling him. He didn't quit. He didn't yell back. He just did what he knew was right, and he just kept on keeping on. So I hope that we can all learn a lesson from this, especially in our day and time, of people not getting along just because of differences that we may have in the way we look or the way we think. We need to learn to get along and to be okay that everybody's not going to be exactly like me. Everybody's not going to be exactly like you. But the one thing we all can do that's the same is love each other and accept each other. And if you can learn that now, you kids that are reading with me, y'all can make a difference in the world. You can change the way this world is going. You don't have to be like the adults that you might see on the news or hear about that are doing stupid things and not making great decisions. So anyway, I hope this inspires you. It inspires me. And I'm so glad you joined me today. And I'm not sure what our next book is going to be, but I'm going to read several picture books and have that going. And remember, if you don't have anything going on next week, come join us at the summer camps. And I will see y'all soon. Thank y'all. Bye.